Welcome everyone. Thank you very much for listening to my channel. And today we have Vandana Nand, who is going to speak with us about leadership today. Welcome, Vandana. How are you today?
I'm good, thanks. Thank you, Leonie, for having me.
Our pleasure. So today we will be talking about Vandana's journey in her career, getting to know her, as well as her leadership style and some examples of what true leadership looks like. So thank you everyone who's been listening to my channel and this particular talk. I'm really excited to speak to Vandana today about her background, and I'm sure there will be some really interesting stories that she'll be sharing with us and that you all can learn a little bit more from her. So I'm going to pretend as the audience, they're giving a round of applause and welcome, welcome. All right. How do I know Vandana? She has been uh, working with Transport for New South Wales, and I've also worked with Transport for New South Wales. So through our networks, we have met, and then more recently, she's also invested in a few career development programs, and I've learned so much about her and her success, wonderful success, and today we'll be sharing that success with you all. Now, in terms of her background, she has her own finance consulting business called VE Proprietary Limited, and she has been consulting to few organisations, as I mentioned before, Transport for New South Wales, RMS, and more recently, Greater Sydney Commission in the position of Director, Finance and Procurement. And I'm going to probably just start with the first question. If you could just tell us a little bit about your career journey.
Where do I start? In terms of my journey, when I was 7 years old, I actually wanted to be a school teacher. And from then on, as I was growing up, I was a sickly child. So one of my doctor's appointment, my uncle who used to live with us, he took me to his workplace. Used to work at a Reserve Bank of Fiji. At that point, I grew up in Fiji, just for your reference. So when he took me there, and I was amazed by his office, like it was huge. He had a huge desk. He had a secretary sitting outside, and he's like, "Oh, so do you want to go home?" And I looked at him and I was like, "Oh no, I want to stay here. Air-conditioned office and such a huge desk and very nice, clean and tidy." And that's when I thought, oh, you know what? I want to work in a bank. So as I went along with my journey, I actually pursued that. I was very interested to work in a bank. I got a degree in double majoring in accounting and financial systems, and also got information systems as well. So as a graduate, I worked for Australian New Zealand Banking Group, and as a graduate trainee, we got placements in terms of where, like, we worked in various areas, and we got to choose in terms of where we wanted to work. So I chose relationship banking. And I thought, oh, you know what? Let's do relationship banking, getting to meet people, big clients, big portfolio. This should be fun. So as I was working with them, when it came to serviceability and loan approvals, when we looked at their files, like we had to look at financial statements. So then I'm going thinking, and I was like, I've got this accounting degree here. I could read the financial statement, but I was start getting curious in terms of how these numbers came about. So as I was thinking that process, I actually, in the back end, I applied for migration, like I decided to move. So I got my PI in Australia by then, and I actually moved. So when I came to Australia, and I was like, you know what, I'm actually going to find out how those numbers came about in the financial statement. It was really good. So that's how I got into accounting. So I worked at a recruitment company. So I headed their finance division. So I managed the accounts payable side of things, the receivable side of things. I actually looked after their banking system. I looked after the bonuses when it was consultants during quarterly performance, how they performed. I looked at it and I was like, I really, really enjoyed it. And I was like, okay, that's one aspect covered, take. And then by then I decided, oh, let's move to UK. That sounds really good. Working holiday, let's do it. So friends of our, like a couple of friends, we actually packed up our bags and we moved there. And I was fortunate enough to actually get into accounting. So I did various accounting roles in terms of financial to management accounting. By then I had dragged up like a whole bunch of experience in terms of how a financial statement can be prepared. Very proud of myself. And when I moved back to Australia, and I was like, oh, that's what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to like prepare one at some day, like some stage in my career. So I had that thought in the back of my head. But then when you actually move countries, you actually do start all over again. So I had to start over in terms of doing things. And I got that opportunity to actually do a financial statement at Information Privacy Commission. And that was the first time I remember going through an audit, preparing financial statement from scratch without systems and doing it on Excel, not on the system. So going through each and every account. And I was like so proud of myself. And I was like, this is it. So this statement, which I looked at when I was at the bank, I actually prepared and I was so proud of that. So since then, I decided that was around 2014, and I decided to actually start up my own consultancy where I actually can work with people and take them along the journey which I've been on in terms of helping them to come to that phase as well, in terms of how things are done and making a complete pie, for example. Like we actually do little bits and pieces normally, but at that stage I had done a whole lot. So that's how it all began.
Yes, and you've been very successful in leading people and teams and individuals just in regards to change management, in regards to organizational change, process changing, systems, you name it, right?
Yes, thank you. Yes, I have. I have done all of it. And it's just been sometimes you actually don't even realize when you're actually going through that process in terms of what you've done. But when you sit back and reflect on it, it's been an amazing journey. So far, I'm very, very grateful in terms of going through all that process and doing this.
Yes. So I'm really curious, what brings you joy at work?
Um, Preparing that financial statement, having it on my hand, accomplishing a task that brought a lot of joy. It's a vision, like something which I've set out ages ago, and seeing it like completed, manifesting it in real life. Seeing people, listening to them, and understanding what issues they're going through, and talking to them and trying to help them. That brings a lot of joy. So when I'm dealing with people, like either it be, I don't go via ranks, like I treat everybody the same. That's just how I was brought up in terms of my background as well. That's how I am. So I actually try to help everybody. So people are very comfortable with me in terms of coming up and approaching me. So I actually do enjoy that. Like it brings a lot of joy where I can help someone change something in some aspect, like which they cannot recognize and understand like what their challenges are and how to come to a solution. Like it makes me very, very happy.
Mm,
I feel like I'm contributing, giving back. It's just
mm. I like
it's
what you
fun.
said. Yeah, I like what you said. Just to treat everyone equal. It's like that way. You seem like you motivate people and bring them on a journey so they feel like they're really involved in the team and in the organization. Mm.
That's true. It is true. Because normally as humans we are driven by fear as well. So when you actually see the ranking and you don't treat them equal, you actually are fearful in terms of how to approach people and how to treat them. So it takes away the fear element when you actually are looking at everybody at the same lens, because we are all working towards the same goal for anything we work towards. So from that perspective, it just makes it easier.
That's amazing what you just shared. That is incredible. Yes, it takes away the fear factor. I'm really curious in terms of a setback in your career that made you successful today.
Uh, as I touched on earlier in my career journey, whenever I moved countries, I actually had to go back. So whatever level I was at, I always had to move back and then start all over again. So when I moved from UK back to Australia, I was a financial controller managing a division at one of the big hospitals there. And I had to move back when I came to Australia. I started off as a business analyst. So it was moving back in terms of taking a few steps back in my career as well as paycheck, which is given. However, what it did do for me in terms of my goal, my vision for preparing that financial statement, it actually led that path towards that. So from that perspective, whilst it was a step back, like in terms of my career, it actually gave me something which I was looking forward to doing. So it was a good thing in the end. And I became a subject matter expert as well in terms of when it comes to accounting. I can decipher anything like I look at something and I can know what's going on and what is wrong. Like it's very easy. Like it gave me that ability to understand and come to an end result. So from that perspective, it was brilliant what it did for me. I
So,
don't look at it as a bad thing. It's a good thing.
yes. So the setback in terms of taking a step back in your career when you come back home, and as you said, as a BA, it then enables you to become a subject matter expert. So you know all the technical, operational work, and that way, when you become a leader, you're able to understand both the technical aspects as well as the leadership and management component. Yeah.
That's
Mm,
right. That's right.
mm,
Because with people, that ability comes from the heart when you're dealing with people. However, when it comes to technical issues, you actually have to use your brain and you need to have a bit of hands-on experience. So from that perspective, if you don't have hands-on experience and you only know what textbooks are saying, you only are thinking of that aspect of the textbook. So you can't join the dots. So from that perspective, what it did for me was able to join the dots. I can actually do that. So
mm,
that's a really good skill to have.
join the dots. And we only join the dots when later on in our life we look back and we can join the dots. Yeah.
Pretty much. I was very grateful for that business analyst job, though, I have to say, because at that point I was trying to buy a property. And from that perspective, like in terms of personal as well, so it was professionally, it was brilliant. Personal life as well, it just both flowed. So I'm
mm,
very, very grateful.
yeah. Describe your leadership style, Vandana. What's worked for you? Your leadership style.
My leadership style. It my style keeps changing depending on who my staff are, because you can't say you've got this style and that's it and it'll work with everybody, because people are different and the way they understand different information and deal with change or anything, it's completely different. I am a leader who coach people. I love coaching. Like I wanted to become a teacher. So that aspect always just keeps coming out when I'm dealing with people. So from that, that's something which like I am doing in my role. And I am also a leader who's always looking to improve things. I'm constantly like improving either the system side of things or when I see an ability in a staff, and I'm constantly pushing them to actually do more for themselves as well. So I'm actually encouraging people. They might not see it. They might thinking, what's Vandana doing? Why is she making me go there? Not realizing what it'll do in the long run from them. And by the time they do realize and come back to me, and it's like, oh, you know what? Thank you. You actually pushed me out of my comfort zone to actually go deal with that. I didn't even realize I could do it. So from that perspective, like I do that too. And I also like to take their opinions when I'm making a decision. Even though the final call will be mine, I do like to bounce back ideas. I do like to talk to my people, like my staff, in terms of how are we doing this? What are your thoughts? How do we do this better? Like, how do we improve things? And like, I like that collectiveness, like the team environment. So I do build that as well. And I also do like to reward my staff as well. So when it comes to doing like when we any small successes, like no matter how big or small it is, like I like to actually reward by either take a half day off, don't worry about it, like it's on me. You don't have to be worried about your half day. Or let's go for lunch, guys. What are you doing? Let's all go for lunch. Or we go bowling as a team. Let's all go bowling and have drinks and like turn your computers off. Don't worry about this afternoon. Like we can actually afford to take time off. So I like to do things like that in terms of building and making sure, like I like that togetherness. I like bringing people together. So that does do that. So that's who I am as a person and as a leader. So it varies, but majority of my style, I guess, does stay. I guess coaching and yeah, together, yeah, all that is. I'm always constantly trying to build and make people to work together. So that's who I am.
It sounds like so much fun working in your team.
Thank you. Some would say fun, and others would say, "Oh, what? Like it's something like it's when people are pushed out of their comfort zone, they don't really appreciate it at that point. So from that
Mm,
perspective, they would say, "Oh, why are you?" So it's a bit of both. It's fun and games. We are constantly laughing though on a daily basis. It is compulsory in terms of being in a team. Like we laugh at every little thing. So we do that. So that's,
Yes.
yeah.
So it sounds like you apply different leadership techniques, styles with different individuals. So with some individuals, you do need to use more of a hands-on approach. With some individuals, you need to be more hands-off, and obviously some individuals who need more coaching, then you will provide that, and so forth. But more importantly, what you just shared was brilliant. It's about celebrating success as well, because we can be so busy working away, and those small or big milestones we forget to celebrate. So you take them out bowling, you take them out for meals. Love it, love it. Thank you. Um, and I guess that leads to the next question. I just to think a little bit more outside of the box of what do you do personally to create a positive and fun team culture besides what you shared so far? That's small, simple things that on a day-to-day basis.
I actually enter my office, like whenever our office building, with a smile. I have this smile plastered. Some would say, oh, like, that is, I actually am, I was born like this. I'm probably born crying. I don't know. Mom will have to answer that one. But but I've always been very smiley and very happy and bubbly. It's just my personality. So whenever I walk in the office, I'm always smiling. Hey guys, how you doing? Like I've always got that thing, like where I have to know how everybody is, how was their weekend, and like I take my time and try to know and connect with people. So that's what I try to do with my team as well. So I also like to discuss things about my personal little bits and things, not like going into too much depth about like all my personal life, but I do tell them how my weekend was, or if I'm buying a kettle and I'd like take photos and I'm getting them involved as well. Hey guys, what do you think? Yellow, purple, or blue? Which color do you like? So I do that. I get them involved. So in terms of personally, I feel a bit connected. I was like, oh, but then I'm buying a kettle, like a piece of me would be in her home too, probably. They would think that, or whatever. I would be like, oh, I see. So in terms of that, I do create that, and it makes a laughing. Some people take it like, oh, really? Like you want my opinion for your house? Like I didn't even know the decor. So it starts up a conversation. So I like doing that sort of thing. Like it actually creates a fun. So we have a laugh for about that 5-10 minutes in the morning before we actually get into business in terms of start doing things. Because normally the attitude, like when we used to go in the office, people would go in, make a coffee, put it on the desk, and then just like just go on your emails and just keep coming in. But that just 5-10 minutes of revival, it's just like a booster, which actually makes you you're smiling and going back to your computer rather than just being grumpy and that sort of thing. So I like doing things like that. I encourage people to talk, so open up about their own personal things, because that makes them comfortable. It makes them comfortable to actually, like, whatever the difficulties they may have, they actually come to me from that perspective as well. And not just that, but personally as well. Sometimes we go through things in our personal lives which we don't really, we come into the office, but we have to deal with what we've got in front. But if that is still in your head, you can't perform well. So sometimes people open up from their personal perspective as well. This is what I'm going through at home. And I was like, oh, this is, so I do try to do, like, make them comfortable enough to actually come to me if there is any issues and I can help them out. And at the same time, I'm assertive as well when it comes to serious business. So from that perspective, we create this culture of respect and fun and joy. So that's what I do.
Mm. No, I think I'm just going to recap some of the things you just said, because it's really quite powerful what you just mentioned. I mean, in the morning to just get together and have a chat in the morning, 5-10 minutes, a real, you want to call it a huddle, or a booster to get together, talk, share, and that there's a connection at work, that you're creating a culture where you're going to show that you care. What stood out from what you just said was the interesting is that sometimes professionals feel like, well, I'm going to work, I don't want to share my personal stuff at work. But what you said was gold, is that if there's something at home that's bothering you, it's going to affect your performance at work. We're human beings, it's only natural. And the fact that you actually create a safe space for your team members to share their personal stuff with you, I'm assuming one-on-one, confidential, in confidence, that enables them to share, and then enables them to let it out, and and then they can go back to their desk and work and be more productive at work, as opposed to keeping it all in and then try to get through the day and they're not performing well anyway. So I really like that approach. But as you said, you've got to have a balance between the personal and professional life. You can't be obviously spending hours talking about someone's personal life. But I think it's, it sounds like you show a strong interest in your team and you care about your team. So that's awesome. Thank you for sharing. Now, the next question is a really awesome question, and it's all around, I think, what you've shared with me in terms of your career around helping individuals understanding their role, their responsibility, how their role fits into the big picture. Can you give an example where you have done this and how you guide employees to be, on the journey with you and would be so accountable and deliver exceptional results at work?
Accountable, deliver. I don't know if I should be sharing organization names, so I will leave that out from this example. But what I'll do is, in terms of what exactly happened, I'll take you through the scenario. But then how do I? Okay. So in terms of finances, one of the things which we do is we actually forecast things. So when you're working for a government agency, you're given a budget, let's say $1 billion, go spend on this particular project. So you actually, now from that $1 billion, what Treasury team expect you to do is give them a forecast. How much do you think you'll spend out of that billion? Are you going to spend the whole billion this year, or are we going to spend only 500,000 and the other 500,000 probably next year? Sorry, it's a billion, isn't it? I'm giving an example for $1 million now. However, going back to it, let's go to $1 million, it doesn't matter. So in terms of that aspect, you actually have to know how much you're going to spend and how much you actually certain areas of business, what they don't see is the importance of it. Like number thing, finances, you deal with it. I don't really need to care. However, what they don't realize is impact of one agency's spend, either it be a transport cluster, education, health, it actually it impacts the other agencies as well, because government has only a certain envelope of money to spend for that financial year in terms of budgets. They can only utilize that for a particular sector. And that if one of the sectors is lagging behind, if we do not highlight that in advance, we cannot give that money to the other sector who actually are in need of the funding. So that is something which I actually try and emphasize when I'm talking to my business stakeholders in terms of advising in terms of why we need to do it. It's not only impacting us in terms of finances. However, if I don't understand the business, if I don't understand what you're doing, I cannot relate that information onwards. So I cannot make any change and do anything. And it basically is a reputation risk as well from an agency perspective. If we are saying, oh, I'm going to spend that million and I don't spend it, you actually lose credibility as well. So from that perspective, I try to give them examples and consequences, the impact it has. And in terms of the overall, if we actually do this, how we can improve.
Mm. So you help your team members understand this and how they can be more effective in their roles to contribute to the big picture, right? And how do your team actually then feel about your approach when you actually explain it to them in that way? What's the reactions?
My team, in terms of normally people only, I'm not talking about just my team, I'm just generally in terms of people, what we actually do is normally we look at things now, being in the present moment. It's a big thing. So we only think about situation like today, tomorrow, the impact of that. We don't think about the future or the wider consequences of actions. So from that perspective, when you actually bring clarity, they actually start getting motivated in terms of doing things and bringing that change. They actually start seeing how or what they'll do in terms of bring better results for the organization. And it'll bring in terms of stakeholders as well, when we explain things, it becomes a cohesive environment with the stakeholders and us in terms of our teams, in terms of working together. It actually builds a rapport as well. We actually bring joy as well and fulfillment in terms of what we're doing. So they actually feel good about the work and they understand it in terms of what they're doing. It's not exactly just number punching or giving this to the other end, but understand in terms of what is driving. And that
Mm.
actually leads to them understanding what the business is doing, like what are the driving factors in terms of us not like, in terms of meeting a target, what are drivers for it? So it there's like a few folds of benefits out of it, and they actually start feeling good about themselves. Like people, like I actually feel really good as well from
Mm.
my end. So
Mm.
I can just imagine what it brings to others.
Mm. No, I really like what you just shared because I think sometimes individuals go to work and they fulfill their responsibilities, but they lack the understanding, they lack the clarity. How does their work fit into the big picture? And you're able to keep them informed, coach them, help them understand. So when you do have clarity, you then feel more motivated, and then you can actually be more effective and add results to the team, to the organization, and so forth. So certainly, giving people clarity is very motivating. Um, so I'm curious as to I I ask all my guests these questions about what books they like to read. That more importantly, a book that they'd like to buy and give it as a gift to somebody. Is there a book you have in mind?
I would, and you'd probably laugh at what I'm going to say in terms of what I'd buy and give to someone, but I'd give people a coloring book with pencils, color pencils. It's an adult coloring book. I would not give anything to read. You've done enough reading in universities. I think everybody, in terms of work, in terms of strategic class, so you do a lot of reading. I'd actually give them this book so that they can actually start and living in the moment. That actually brings, it's important because sometimes we think our mind is set so much to the future and past in terms of what's happening, we forget to live in the moment. So um, that gives you coloring, just that simple. You're present, you're in the moment, and that brings out that inner child in you. As we grow up, we actually need to embrace that inner child, not let go of it. We should not get serious and get so involved in work. We actually should be playful with everything and things will just flow. Or either do work or anything personally as well. So that's what it does in terms of that book. Like the colors, different colors you use, the brighter colors, it brings out vibrancy, it brings out like it's happy, like yellows, oranges, pinks, reds, like it's just very nice and happy colors, and all these pastel colors which we use, like it's very uplifting, both emotionally and your mood. Like it makes you happier. It's a stress reliever. And if you're a parent, sit down with your child and color. And they'll be like, oh, my daddy is doing the same thing as what I am. They think I'm happy too. So you're basically involved. So for like, or even mommy, I said daddy just, it just came first to my head. But it's just mommy as well. Like, these things we forget. We forget our own selves as we're living and as we are doing things. So that's what I do. I make you remember who you are. As like, you're not
Mm.
here to actually be stressed all the time and just working and busying it. What is stress? What exactly is it? We're bringing it on ourselves. So that will help you, I feel. Coloring
Mm.
book.
And so you've given that as a gift before?
I have
Yeah,
to one of my
yeah, and
friends. She was, yeah.
yeah, and what's the reaction like that people have towards a coloring
Um,
book as a gift?
as, people don't understand it. They don't understand the power of it. I've been
Mm.
through situations where I actually did it myself, coloring. So I know what it did for me. So from that, my personal experience, I'm giving it to someone else as a present. So whilst they don't understand it, they actually take it as a kind of like, why would you do coloring book? And they put it aside. But when it comes like a few months down the line and they see me doing it, I was like, oh, I was like, oh, is that why you're always happy? I was like, is that why you're always like this? I
That's
was like, try
brilliant. Is
it.
that why you're interesting you shared that because I definitely read a book on mindfulness techniques and it's actually part of a book that talks about mindfulness techniques as using coloring books to actually promote focusing, living in the moment and like you
That's
said,
true.
the inner child, bring out the inner child because we all have an inner child and why not embrace it? I mean, it brings you back. The second you said that to give that as a gift, so it just brought me back memories. When was the last time I actually did any coloring? And you're right, with all the different colors, looking at various colors, it does make you happy. So thank you. That was definitely one of a kind as a response, Vandana. Now, this is the last question I ask all my guests, and that is, what's one thing that you do every day that makes you happier and more productive?
I'll give you two things I do every day, not just one. One thing is as soon as I wake up, I make my bed. A lot of people, when you get out of your bed, you don't make it, and you actually just go along. It what it does is when you actually do that, it creates a sense of accomplishment. You've completed one task, so your brain registers it subconsciously. You know, I've created a task, and when you actually start going on with your day, you start seeing everything flowing. Everything will be flowing in terms of whatever task you're given. You actually do it, and you actually manage to tackle anything that is thrown at you. It's interesting. And when you go to bed at night, it's pretty, it's inviting. So you actually love it, like in terms of going in between the sheets and stuff, and in terms of sleeping. And you have a really, like after a day at gym, and well, you're tired, your body's tired, you actually, that rest, it's inviting you actually go in and sleep nicely. And it's like tidy environments now that we're working from home as well. How many times do you actually walk past your bedroom? And so from that perspective, it creates clarity, like in terms of cleanliness and tidy environment. Second thing I do is I meditate. I either before shower or after, like it depends on your morning routine in terms of how you do things. I like that. If I'm rushing out of the house, I like that 5-10 minutes by myself, just closing my eyes and just sitting there. If it's people say, what is meditation? Like, I can't even meditate. What exactly does it mean? You don't have to do anything. Just sit down and look at your hands. Be quiet and just look at your hands. It's as simple as that. So close your eyes, obviously, that's what I do. So in terms of that, I've been doing it for a few years, and it's I can't even emphasize the benefits. I can't even like note it down. If I'm trying to tell people in terms of meditating, they're like, oh, I've got so many thoughts. I'm sorry, I can't do it. I've got too much thoughts. I've got a lot to think about. What is more important? Your thinking and that is more important, or your health is more important in terms of how you are. So physical health, we all look after. We look after what we eat. Oh, I don't look good, like all that. But mental health, it's very important. So we need to look after that. So yeah,
Mm,
I you just asked a simple question in terms of what it does, but it
mm,
does make me really happy,
yes,
and
yeah. I'm
it
just going to
does make
comment.
me.
Yeah,
Sorry.
go on, go on.
No, it does make me very happy, and it does make me feel like more productive. I have, I can't emphasize, like I just get energy from doing that. I don't even need to eat wisely or healthy, or even exercise. Like I just by simple meditation on a daily basis, I just feel revived. I feel, I feel so much energy that I can do anything. You just throw it, and then I was like, okay, yeah, that's fine. I can do it. Like, you
Mm,
have that I can do it attitude. Nothing is hard. It's
mm.
it's that powerful.
Well, I
Very
think it's
passionate
very
about this one.
powerful. Very powerful because you and I are smiling all the time and we're both meditators, right?
Yep, pretty much.
So look, I loved what you just shared. That making the bed first thing in the morning is also has been a bit of research on that technique. That it's actually a really good productivity technique. As you said, you wake up, you make the bed, it's set. Also, a very good point. You mentioned that you walk past your bedroom, and every time you see it's messy, you're actually frustrated already just looking at the bed and it's messy. So make sure the bed is neat and tidy, and when you walk past, okay, I'm going back to sleep tonight, and the bed is set. So love it, love it. Meditation. I'm just going to just mention to all my audience that if you haven't heard my podcast on 1,000 Days of Meditation that I have published earlier this year, go and listen to it because certainly it's similar to what Vandana has mentioned. It certainly is very powerful. And as you said, it's not, sometimes it's just a few minutes, 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, stop and pause throughout the day, take some deep breaths. If you just need to look at your hands and just appreciate your hands, like how beautiful are your hands, or we actually have hands to actually work and type and do so many things, right? Just to be able to just stop and pause throughout our day and just to take care of our mental well-being. So Vandana, I'm just curious, is there anything else you'd like to mention about leadership that you think that our listeners would love to hear about leadership experience, skills, good things to do, things not to do?
There's different types of leaders in terms of, so there's different techniques. What we do need to do is get out of our comfort zone. As leaders, sometimes what we do is we forget that so some leaders are like, this is my style, I am quiet. So they look for people who are exactly like them when it comes to hiring as well. What we do need to do is we actually need to look for someone different who will challenge us in terms of becoming a better leader. Because why we're here is for continuous improvement. We want to always see the better of, like, better like 5 years from now. If I look at myself and I was like, oh, you know what, I can't wait to, like, I've done really great. So you will always want to keep continuous improvement. It's quite important for us. So from that perspective, like some leaders, they like shouldn't generalize, but what I'm trying to say is, as leaders, sometimes we actually look for a same person, same individual with the same characteristics as us. But what we need to do is step away, take a step back, get a different person who is completely different to you, and then you both learn and grow together. Because you have skill sets which will be opposite, polar opposites, and you actually can learn and grow together with each other. So from that perspective, it is good. It's good to have that type of environment and at the same time manage yourself in terms of breathing in and out.
Mm,
It's very
mm,
important in terms of leaders. You need to be well managed yourself in order to lead teams. If you cannot manage your own self in terms of breathing or your own emotions, mental health, you are not effective leaders. So from that perspective, I think it's very important for us to actually, like, your own face mask. Like when you go on planes, they say put on your mask first. So as leaders, we tend to forget that. We tend to forget to put on our mask. We start putting on masks. So what we need to do is stop, take a step back, and put on our mask first, and then learn to breathe, and then start putting on masks. So these are the, yeah, few things which just comes on the top of my head. But I can keep talking if you just allow
mm.
me.
Yes, no, yeah, wonderful points, wonderful points. I thoroughly have enjoyed listening to you, and I'm sure the audience has as well. Thank you so much, Vandana. And I just wanted to wish you all the best. We'll stay in touch for sure. I'm just going to say good thanks to all the listeners on this channel. I've already got one or two other speakers that are coming on board in the next few months, so stay tuned. Thank you very much for following
Thank
this
you.
channel, and I'll speak to you very soon, Vandana. Thank you. See
Thank you,
you.
Leonie. Thank you for having me. Thanks. See
Thank
ya.
you. Bye. Thank